Hello and welcome. In this episode of PHoGaN, photography in your home, garden and neighbourhood, we're going to be focusing on a really good photo tip, which if you can embrace and practice enough times will really improve your photography. So when you go out and take your pictures in future, when you incorporate this technique in your photography, you're going to turn your photographs into masterpiece. It's almost guaranteed, this one. It's not a straightforward process, and you've really got to start thinking like your camera if you really want to make this work. So, what is the technique? Well, we call this technique backlighting. Backlighting is when you're using the light behind your subject or focus, your point of interest in the picture, shall we say, behind you, so you're actually looking straight into the light source. Now, generally it can be any light source, but for this process I'm going to keep referring to sunlight. Now, I know when you first take up photography, quite rightly we tell people try to always ensure that the sun's behind you rather than in front of you. Well, for today I want you to ignore that and start again. So tear up that tip, because we're going to teach you a new way of doing things. So the best way I can explain how you can practice this technique, this morning I was out and about and I used this vase you can see behind me here, this lovely transparent green vase. I took it around my garden and home and I located it in such ways that the main light source, e.g. the brightest light source, was behind the object. This way you'll find that if you can get the light, even if it's transparent, to stream through the object towards your lens, then you're going to end up with an even better picture. Now, it makes sense. The attempt at catching any light source streaming through or behind any object, of course it's going to present you with a challenge which you as a photographer need to learn how you can embrace. The thing about these sort of pictures are, you've got a mixture of variation in exposures. So for example, you'll have the highlight of the sunshine and then you'll have the detail within the shadow of the picture you want to show. Now, don't let that worry you, because there is a great and easy way you can overcome that. And the other thing, of course, we want to get is we want to try to reproduce the colour as the eye sees it. Now, as I mentioned at the opening piece here, you need to try to start thinking like your camera does. And by that I mean is, your eye will interpret things differently, and your brain working with your eye, it will tend to interpret things differently from what your camera will see. So what you have to do, you have to start to think like your camera. Now, the only way you can do this is the more you take pictures in various light sources, is the more you keep checking back on your pictures, and then that way you'll start to know how your camera responds in different settings with different light sources and different environments. That's a really key thing to do. It is a fine balancing act. Now, the other thing, of course, you have to take on board when you're taking a still photograph is, generally, in most cases, we only have one choice of exposure. E.g., we take one exposure, and that's when the camera works out what light source it needs to be on and what settings all the gimmings and stuff inside do for the light you're offering the camera. We'll only have one setting for that, and of course, sometimes it will expose for the highlight, sometimes it exposes for the shadow. So you'll need to compromise between your settings when you're trying to do this trick to make sure it works best. So this is a great exercise to get you to dig down into your camera. So whether it's a camera phone you're using, or a digital compact camera, or a digital DSLR camera, or even a mirrorless camera, then this is a great opportunity for you to learn how your camera works and start digging down deep for detail. So I want to make this exercise a little bit easier for you, so I'm going to ask you for the first time is if you put your cameras onto automatic, and you can vary your exposures by actually moving your position of your camera around. So for example, if you've got the sun behind a leaf, just move that camera, and as I said before, when you're shooting into the sun, of course, protect your eyes and try not to do it in the full glare of midday. Yeah, try to do it early morning or the evening. So go back to have a leaf hanging down and we have the sun behind it, and you can literally move your camera around to see where the best light is. And what you'll notice while you're doing that is that the exposure on the surface of the object, particularly if it's transparent, let's talk about a leaf still, you'll see that that will vary even through the viewfinder as to what your picture's going to be. Now, the great thing about this sort of photography is when you're practicing, you can pick on things such as my vase, or you can pick on things such as, I say, a leaf, and it's not going to go anywhere. So you can just keep taking shots and keep playing with your settings. Trust me, it's the only way you'll become a competent photographer. There's no point just keep photographing in the same style and wondering, oh, wonder if I've done this, done that, once you've taken it. Do it at the time. Now, another good thing about this sort of photography backlit is to make it look effective. You don't need to do flash, the flash fill-in we call it. But for this you won't need to do that because you're trying to get a light source through a transparent surface. Now, the last video we produced, of course, was all about photographing clouds, and I have to say thank you so much. We were inundated, literally, with lots of people wanting to have their picture in the gallery. We've had offerings from all over England. We've had some from Northern Ireland, we've had some from Bonnie, Scotland, and we've also had some from France, so that's great. And oh yeah, big hello to those people who apparently watch us in New Zealand. I hope you're keeping well down the other side there. So anyway, the editor, wasn't me, went through and she's decided which pictures she thinks are worthy of this week's gallery, and we should view them now. I really love some of those pictures, so thank you very much for sending them in. And now for this week's challenge. Challenge going to set for you and your family. Get out and about with your camera. You can do this one at home, of course, if you're stuck at home. I'd like to see your shots of light streaming through objects. They can be man-made or natural. If you want to send me your photos for inclusion in the next video, please do. You can email me at phil@philmynottphoto.co.uk, or you can post them to me via my Facebook page. So if you'd like to subscribe to future photo related videos here on YouTube, all you need to do is to click the icon there. And looking forward to seeing you all again on the next video very soon. And don't forget, there's no such thing as bad light, just bad photographers. Bye.